Have you ever watched a woman slowly lose interest, even though you said all the right things, treated her well, and gave her your full attention? Have you ever laid awake, wondering why the guy who seems to care less somehow gets more desire, more attention, and more emotional investment than you do? You replay every conversation. You analyze every text. You wonder what you missed. Maybe you tried harder. Maybe you became more available. Maybe you gave more compliments. And somehow, the attraction faded anyway. You begin questioning yourself, your looks, your confidence, your value. But what if the problem was never you? What if the problem was the order, the sequence, the timing? I'm here to tell you something that most men never hear. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this. I'm glad you're here, because this is the Stoic way, where we uncover the real psychology that creates desire. And today, we're talking about something surprisingly simple. 2 words. Just 2. Words that communicate value without saying it. Words that trigger curiosity. Words that create emotional movement. And I'll warn you now, the final principle connected to these words is incredibly powerful. It can change everything fast, and almost no one uses it correctly. Now, before we reveal those 2 words, you need to understand why they work. Because attraction is rarely logical. Women don't experience desire through a checklist. The human brain uses mental shortcuts. Evolutionary psychology shows us that attraction often happens beneath conscious awareness. A woman is constantly scanning, not for perfection, for signals. Signals of strength, signals of confidence, signals of emotional stability, signals of value. Not what you say, what your behavior suggests. And that's why many men struggle. They focus on information. She focuses on interpretation. Big difference. The 2 words we're talking about today are these: maybe later, simple, calm, unforced, powerful. Because most men communicate neediness without realizing it. They rush, they chase, they seek immediate outcomes. But maybe later communicates something entirely different. It suggests options, patience, a full life, emotional control. And those are deeply attractive qualities. Not because women are manipulative, because human psychology responds to value. Scarcity creates attention. Certainty creates comfort. Mystery creates curiosity. The right balance creates desire. Let's break down exactly why. The first trigger is masculine presence. This has nothing to do with muscles, nothing to do with expensive clothes. Masculine presence is grounded energy. It's emotional steadiness. It's the ability to remain calm when other people become reactive. When you say, maybe later, without anxiety, you're communicating that you're not desperate for an immediate result. Imagine she asks if you're free tonight. Most men instantly rearrange their lives. Instantly, they communicate urgency. Instead, you smile, you check your schedule, you say, maybe later, I've got a few things to handle first. Notice the difference. You didn't reject her. You didn't play games. You simply demonstrated that your life matters too. That creates respect, and respect fuels attraction. Grounded men aren't rushed. The mountain doesn't chase. The second trigger is emotional challenge. Attraction needs polarity, a little tension, a little playfulness. Without it, interactions become predictable. Predictability feels safe, but desire needs movement. Let's say she's teasing you. Most men defend themselves, explain themselves, justify themselves. Instead, you grin and say, maybe later, I'll let you win this argument another day. Now you've created a playful challenge. No conflict, no hostility, just energy, a subtle emotional spark. Studies on attraction consistently show that emotional variation creates stronger memories. People remember how you make them feel, not what you explain. Challenge creates engagement. A little mystery goes a long way. The third trigger is selective attention. This one changes everything. Many men believe attraction grows when they give more attention, constant attention, unlimited access, instant replies, endless availability. But the human brain values what appears valuable. Your attention is valuable. Treat it that way. When a woman texts and you're genuinely busy, you don't need to pretend. You don't need tactics. You simply live your life. Maybe you answer later. Maybe you say, "Sounds good," maybe later. The message beneath the words matters. You have purpose. You have priorities. You have direction. And direction is attractive. A man with no mission becomes emotionally dependent. A man with purpose becomes magnetic. Your attention is earned, not because you're arrogant, because your life matters. If this is making sense so far, hit subscribe and join the Stoic Way community. It helps more men learn what they were never taught. Now let's go deeper, because understanding attention is only the beginning. The fourth trigger is intentional listening. This is where many men fail. They hear words, they don't hear emotions. A woman wants to feel understood, not analyzed, not fixed, understood. Imagine she mentions that she has a stressful presentation next week. Most men forget. A few days later, you remember. You ask about it. You recall a small detail. Suddenly she feels seen, not because you performed a trick, because you paid attention. Real attention. Intentional attention. Now imagine combining that with emotional patience. She asks why you didn't respond immediately. You smile. You say, "Maybe later. First tell me how your presentation went." Notice what happened. You redirected attention toward her experience. You created emotional connection. People crave being seen. The rare man remembers details. The rare man stands out. The fifth trigger is calibrated vulnerability. This one is misunderstood. Many men think attraction requires acting invincible. Others overshare every insecurity. Both approaches fail. Strength without humanity feels cold. Vulnerability without strength feels unstable. The sweet spot sits in the middle. Calibrated vulnerability. You share real experiences, real lessons, real challenges, without seeking rescue, without seeking validation. Maybe she asks about a difficult period in your life. You don't unload everything. You simply say, "That's a long story, maybe later." Then, when the moment feels right, you share it calmly, confidently, without drama. Why does this work? Because anticipation increases emotional investment. The brain releases dopamine when it expects meaningful information, not only when it receives it. Anticipation matters. Mystery matters. Timing matters. Strong men reveal themselves gradually. Depth unfolds. The sixth trigger is gradual physical touch. Respectful, intentional, never forced, never rushed. Attraction often develops through comfort before intimacy. Human beings release oxytocin through positive physical connection. A light touch on the shoulder, a brief hand contact during laughter, a natural moment. Nothing excessive, nothing calculated, just awareness. Imagine you're walking together. There's a crowded space. You gently guide her through it. Simple, respectful, present. And when things naturally progress, you don't rush the process. You don't push. You don't pressure. Your energy communicates patience, the emotional equivalent of maybe later. Because confidence never rushes. Desperation always does. Slow is smooth. Smooth is powerful. Now we arrive at the final trigger, the one almost nobody understands. Controlled unpredictability. This is where attraction often ignites. Not chaos, not inconsistency, not hot and cold behavior. Controlled unpredictability. The human brain pays attention to rewarding uncertainty. It's one reason social media becomes addictive, one reason slot machines become addictive, one reason certain people become unforgettable. The dopamine system loves uncertainty paired with positive outcomes. Let's be clear, we're talking about healthy unpredictability, not emotional manipulation. The difference is intention. Maybe one week you suggest an unexpected activity. Maybe you take a different route. Maybe you share a surprising story. Maybe you reveal a hidden passion. Maybe she asks what you're planning this weekend. You smile. Maybe later, it's a surprise. Suddenly, curiosity appears. Her imagination activates. Her emotional investment increases. Because mystery invites participation, people become attached to what they help imagine. Most men reveal everything immediately. Every plan, every thought, every intention. Nothing remains to discover, but attraction often lives in discovery. The unknown creates movement, the mystery creates energy, and here's the deeper truth. The words "maybe later" are not magic. The psychology behind them is. Those words only work when they reflect reality. A man with no purpose can't fake purpose. A man with no options can't fake abundance. A man with no emotional control can't fake calm confidence forever. The words are simply a window, a signal, a reflection of deeper qualities. That's what women respond to, not the phrase itself, the mindset underneath it. Think about the men who naturally attract people. They aren't usually the loudest. They aren't usually the most handsome. They aren't usually the richest. They possess something else, emotional certainty. They know who they are. They know where they're going, and they don't desperately need approval along the way. That's powerful because neediness creates pressure. Pressure kills attraction. Confidence creates space. Space allows attraction to grow. Now let's connect everything. Masculine presence. You remain grounded. Emotional challenge. You create playful tension. Selective attention. You protect your focus. Intentional listening. You make people feel seen. Calibrated vulnerability. You reveal depth gradually. Gradual physical touch. You build comfort naturally. Controlled unpredictability. You keep curiosity alive. Together, these triggers create a powerful shift, not from manipulation, from self-respect. And that's the lesson most men miss. The goal is not getting women to like you. The goal is becoming a man whose behavior naturally communicates value. A man who doesn't need to convince. A man who doesn't need to chase. A man who doesn't need to perform. Because attraction is rarely created through effort alone. It's created through emotional signals. Signals that communicate strength. Signals that communicate purpose. Signals that communicate self-respect. The irony is that once you understand this, you stop obsessing over attraction. You become focused on growth, purpose, direction, mission. And that's usually when attraction appears. Not because you're trying harder, because you're living better. Women notice that. Everyone notices that. People are drawn toward certainty, drawn toward calmness, drawn toward genuine confidence. And genuine confidence comes from alignment. Your actions matching your values, your words matching your reality. No masks, no games, no pretending, just strength, just intention, just clarity. So the next time you're tempted to chase an outcome, pause, take a breath. Remember the lesson, not the words, the meaning. Maybe later. Patience, purpose, control, mystery. A full life. That's what those words represent. And when those qualities become part of your character, something interesting happens. Women stop feeling like a puzzle. Dating stops feeling like a battlefield. Conversations become easier. Connections become deeper. And attraction becomes something you create indirectly through who you are, not through what you force. That's the real secret. Real tools, not tricks. Use them with respect. Use them intentionally. You don't need perfection. You need strategy. You don't need to become someone else. You need to understand what has been hidden from you. For years, many men believed attraction was about saying the perfect thing, the perfect line, the perfect text, the perfect move. But attraction has always been more subtle than that. It's about emotional communication, the signals beneath the words, the energy beneath the actions, the meaning beneath the moment. Once you understand that, everything changes. You stop seeking approval. You start building value. You stop chasing attention. You start creating a life worth noticing. You stop wondering whether you're enough. You start becoming more. Day by day, decision by decision, conversation by conversation. That is the Stoic way. Not manipulation, mastery. Not performance, presence. Not desperation, direction. And the man who understands these lessons walks differently, speaks differently, lives differently, because he finally realizes he was never broken. He was simply untaught. Now he's aware. Now he's intentional. Now he's dangerous in the best possible way. Calm, grounded, focused, and quietly attractive. If you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming the man women genuinely desire, subscribe to the Stoic Way now. Turn on notifications, because the next one will shift your reality again.